I got it. There might be a delay. Sometimes there's a little bit of delay over here to getting over here, but that doesn't matter because we are getting started on another episode of Talking Schmidt. Hello, everyone. I am Ethan Schmidt, the host of our new podcast we're trying to get going. We're looking to do some big things coming up in the fall. But I have a couple special guests with me. First and foremost, I want to welcome in the baseball SID, and also I believe the exact is a director of athletics communication. Assistant director of Casey's going to get mad when he hears that because I've known Casey forever. So the assistant director of communication, of athletic communication in Preston, Ludwick. Preston, hello. I know not many people may know you. We're going to do an individual episode at one time, you and I, at least probably in the fall. Where we talk a little bit and get to know you a little bit more. But first and foremost, welcome to Austin Peay. I know you've been here for a little bit. If you want to give us a small little background about you and kind of your background coming into Austin Peay.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. I appreciate you having me on. So I'm actually from Texas, around the Dallas area. When I was really young, I moved down to Austin and kind of spent most of my life in Pflugerville, Texas. If anyone doesn't know where that's at, it's between Austin and Round Rock. I like to say between a rock and a weird place. But yeah, went to high school at Pflugerville High, which is actually where the show Friday Night Lights was filmed. So a little bit of history there. Played baseball there for 4 years. Came to college in Shreveport, Louisiana at Centenary College and played for 5 years, got my master's, and was pretty successful there. And now I'm here.
And our special guest this week as well, joining Preston and myself, is the man that you may all know as the center fielder for the Austin Peay Baseball team, Mr. John Bay. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, man. How was the trip back from Florence or whatever community college they had you guys playing at?
It was good. Got back around midnight, so got a decent night's of sleep.
Hey, that's sometimes, when you get some of those trips, we were talking earlier was – you make that trip to Conway, and sometimes you don't get a decent night's sleep, and you have to be up on Monday morning. So glad that you're in here. So, John, really quick, tell us a little bit about where you're from and your hometown and everything like that.
I'm from a really small town in the panhandle of Oklahoma. Roland Fanning likes to say him and I are the only two counties in Oklahoma who don't have a stoplight, which is kind of funny. But, I spent my whole life there. And then I was fortunate enough to spend 2 years at Oklahoma State, and really fortunate to be able to come here when Roland came here. So I've enjoyed every second of it.
What was it like coming from Stillwater to Clarksville, Tennessee?
It was a new experience. I just trusted the coaching staff. I honestly never took a visit here. I just knew the staff and knew I wanted to be a part of it. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and you talked about it, like you followed Coach Fanning here, and we've all, I think he's one of my favorite coaches to get to interact with. I mean, that's for certain. When I get to be around Coach Fanning, he is definitely fun. Definitely one of those coaches that you want to run through a wall for. I mean, you can, I definitely feel that even when I just interview him. What was it like for you? I guess what was kind of his message about like, this is the future. I'm going to Austin Peay. Are you going to come with me kind of deal? What was kind of went into that message?
Yeah, he just works behind the scenes. At the last place, he didn't care to get the recognition, but he was the one putting in the work, him and John Littell. So that's really cool, just knowing the type of people they are and somebody you can trust. So whenever they sent an offer, it was easy to jump on.
Preston, your first couple months here, you obviously knew you were doing baseball and you were going to get introduced to Roland Fanning really quick. First impressions of Coach Fanning?
Well, when your first interview with Coach Fanning is at Hooters, it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, he's a bit of a head case. He's high energy, and that's honestly something I love because at times in my position, I'm working 100 hours a week and I feel exhausted at times. But you walk in the room with him and he brings energy to everyone, and it only motivates you to want to keep doing better and better and better.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, for me at least, being around Coach in those situations, I only get him. Luckily, I've only got him after wins. I don't know what it's like after a lot. I've only interviewed him after wins. So for me at least, it's always been kind of a fun experience because he's always pretty fired up, and then you guys have also had a really good game, so that makes it a little bit easier for me as someone who has to interview him. So I definitely enjoy being able to kind of see him in that light. But John, one of the things that you're seeing it, and I know obviously the win streak ended, but something that only 2 teams on our campus have been able to say this year is they've had the nation's longest win streak, and they happen to play 30 feet away from each other. What was it like to be on that win streak with this group of guys?
It was cool to get on the right side of the ball, and things were just flowing. But that's the name of the game. You're going to get beat at some point. We just got to overcome it. Look to next week.
What was kind of the message around it? Because I know sometimes with baseball, I have a lot of good friends who play baseball, played at every level. A lot of guys who've coached stuff like that. I mean, as me not being a good baseball player at all, you should have seen my first pitch of softball. I'm sad. It was really bad. My wife critiqued me on the video. It was bad. But regardless, I'm not the biggest baseball guy, but I've had a lot of friends who've had very successful careers from this area as well. So for me, watching you guys and watching a team, I know sometimes you can have those weird slumps. Was there ever pressure on during that time of we can't slump during this time, or was it more so of if we take this bat by bat, play by play, we'll be fine?
Yeah, I think it was just more freedom on the field. We all were just playing free and fun. Honestly, kind of like we were 12 years old playing wiffle ball in the backyard. It's kind of the vibes out there. But, it was fun to hold on to that.
Sometimes those balls leave you guys are playing wiffle ball. I'll tell you that much. Some of those
You should have seen this guy swing this weekend.
Oh, Lord. Well, none of us could, apparently, with the way that the video wasn't working. And North Alabama. I watched the one at MTSU. I was on the call. Van Stokes wasn't in that day. And you sent that one to center field, and I looked up and just kind of watched it go, and I was like, you got to call something because it's happening live in front of you. But I was mesmerized, man. You have an absolute rocket shot when you hit that and swing that bat. So this year, a little bit different than last year. Last year you had Lyle and you had John. You had a team that those guys are guys who got drafted. I mean they're on. You had Clayton Gray, guys like that along the way as well. What was the difference you feel from last year's team that got a lot of recognition, to this year's team that's hey, we still should be getting recognition because we're still a good ball club?
Yeah, I think it was cool to see last year. There was a big group of guys that came in year one when Roland came in. It was cool to gel and become a real team with those guys. Obviously, we had a lot of success, but it's cool to see this year because I feel like we came in. There's a lot of people that didn't think we could produce, didn't think we could have the same lineup, but it's cool to show people hey, Austin Peay is still here.
You have a face in there that's been kind of added in with Cameron Nickens, and man, he is watching him play is fun. After about 7 hit by pitches, it felt by MTSU's pitching staff, he shot one right back at. So to me, I was that's a team guy right there. That's a guy I know his stats are great, but that's a team dude. He's quit hitting my dudes. What's it like playing with someone like Cameron and getting him adjusted into Austin Peay? Because you are the vet. You've been I've been here a little bit. I get the program.
It's so cool to see the year one guys come in and in the fall everybody's kind of in their own shell, but Roland and the whole staff does a great job of everyone just coming out being their best authentic self. And it's just cool to see those guys open up. And when they open up and they have all that freedom and clarity, man, they just take off. And it's awesome to see players like Cam doing what they're doing.
Now, Preston, I know for you coming in to cover this team, when you're looking at, I guess, kind of the team that's picked up and you see, this is what happened last year, a really good team, and you don't know a lot about maybe what this team's going to look like. For you, when you come in that situation, what's it been like to kind of see the growth and just this team come together this season?
Well, it's actually funny. I've got my notes pulled up, and this is something that I researched a little bit over the winter. Govs only returned about 30% of their roster from last year. About 30% of their hits, 30% of their runs, 30% of everything. And so going from a really strong offensive team and not knowing what you have other than, a few guys like John, it's hard to tell. But now that you see them a couple weeks into the season, it's okay, well, you got someone like Cam Nickens who's stepping up and producing at the plate. You've got Andres Matias, who has really had a breakthrough season after batting sub 100 last year, and his season got cut short. And so watching these guys be able to push each other and basically make themselves better players on the field, it's like John and Cam. They're in a race right now for the ASUN home run title right now. And, I believe, John, you have it now with 15. Cam has 14. But just last week, Cam was up 3 on him.
Yeah.
So watching the two of them, bounce back and forth off each other and, helping each other be the best teammate possible and best player possible on the field, it's awesome.
And I guess that's got to be a good feeling too. Is like it's better. Like you always want to have somebody to compete against, but when they're like legitimately right after you in the order, that's got to be a cool thing because it almost makes. I mean, I could see where it could be one of those mental things as well, where you're like, damn, John just hit a home run. Now I got to hit a home run. But for and then if Cam hits one right after you, and then like you haven't hit one, you're like, well, now I got to try to get one here. But like. It's got to be a good feeling though that the competition is on your team because it has to breed, this I guess kind of mentality of like the only competition we should have is against each other at this point, and we should be able to also build each other up. Is that kind of how you guys look at that? I mean, it's got to be almost like a big brother little brother situation, or like anything this guy does, I have to be able to match it.
I think Roland does a great job. When we came in the fall, it's all about competing, and I think that's kind of the culture they built here, and it's really cool to see just day in and day out people are competing. Whether it's I had four lasers in BP. What'd you do that round or whatnot? Like it's just cool to compete in that aspect, and in my opinion, there's no pressure if Cam gets it or I get it or whoever in the lineup, but it's just cool to be able to compete fearlessly like that and free.
I think one of the cool things that you had coming into this season, and again, you haven't faltered on it, was, the people in the ASUN said, this is the guy to watch. Preseason player of the year. I know that doesn't mean anything, when you're definitely at this part of the season. That's a cool thing back in like January. But like right now, we're in April. We're closing in on the last couple of series here in the ASUN. You guys are trying to, defend the regular season title. You want to make a big run when it comes to the postseason anyway. But for you to kind of have that, like, is that something that's like, do you look at that and you're like, man, it's great to like have kind of that respect around the league?
Sorta. I would say it's just kind of another something. It's cool, but at the end of the day, we all got to go out and earn everything. So, like, nothing's guaranteed. Nothing was given to us at the beginning of the season. It's just cool to go out and work day in and day out with the guys in the locker room and just grow in that aspect.
You guys, that's the one thing where, I think in the portal era, it one of the biggest concerns I always have is, like, how does a team come together? And I think and I don't know if maybe it's just easier in baseball and softball. Like I said, I've never played baseball, but all my buddies growing up were baseball guys. And like some of them would play football with me when I would play football, and then like I would end up calling baseball games for them, like in high school and whatnot. And you could just tell, like even me as like an announcer was always pulled in as like I felt like I was in Sandlot, calling the games here. Like that's where I was. I wasn't ever going to hit, but they welcomed me. Is it easier? Do you feel? I mean, like with baseball, because like baseball energy is completely different than any other sport. Do you feel it's a little bit easier to kind of have that mentality of like, yeah, this guy's from wherever, Walla Walla, Washington, but like you're a baseball guy, you love the game, we love you kind of deal?
Yeah, I think it's cool to see everybody come in from all different parts, all the way from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. But yeah, I credit a lot of that to coaching. I think the culture and being able to compete with freedom and clarity, you don't get that everywhere. There's a lot of places where players feel pressured depending on how they do, and they could be worried from game to game, like how they're doing, if they're going to get more opportunity. But that's not how it is here. Roland trusts his guys, and it makes you compete on a different level when you have that freedom.
Preston, you obviously the game of baseball as well. I mean, was it cool to come in and kind of feel welcomed as well? I mean, as an old baseball guy, I mean, how the game works, how team works when it comes to baseball. Was that something kind of cool to have that moment of being like, this is why I love the game of baseball? Because I know you love the game of baseball. This is your sport, man. I know it.
Yeah. So at my last job, I was covering 20 different teams, and it was just me and one other guy. And I was broadcasting. I was doing a whole bunch of different stuff behind the scenes to let people at home watch their kids play. And I never really had the opportunity to actually dive deep and cover the sport that I love. And so when you're only making graphics of them winning a game or, hey, it's game day, we play 2 today, it's not the same as doing what I do now. And watching these guys compete every day in and out, and, they're just tearing it up, helping each other. Like John says, be your best authentic self. And it's something that Roland loves to tell people. If he wasn't being his authentic self, kids can't be themselves either. John, I'm sure you make amazing grades in the class. So does everyone else on the team. And so with that being said, Roland allows his guys to be themselves. And I think that translates to the success that they have on the field.
You mentioned that. Have you jumped on the broadcast with Van Stokes yet?
I have once. It was actually in the Bellarmine series when we were at San Xavier High School. We didn't have a broadcast, so I was snapping photos. It was late at night. The lights weren't very good, so it was pointless to take photos at that point. So I hopped on there for about a half game and had some fun with him.
John, you've had a chance now to be in the ASUN for a little bit. You also obviously at Oklahoma State. What's been one of your favorite places to play at? I mean, obviously I know Raymond and Seaham Park is a beauty. I grew up watching games here myself and whatnot and calling many of them, but was there a place that you like to see? I mean, was there really, because I know obviously you're that Big 12 experience, but then also we've got some beauties here in the ASUN. Is there other places where you like to play or places that you've dominated that you're like, this is kind of the house that I have as well?
I'm pretty biased, but Raymond Seaham Park is pretty special, especially just the environment. But yeah, we don't mind being on the road either. That's some of the most fun we could have, just all 39 guys being together. So,
what's it like to see to be in the batter's box and see what I like to call the monster in center field?
It's awesome. It creates a really good batter's eye. So the whole black wall, you can see the ball really well out of the pitcher's hand.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I was wondering, because I know when Coach came in, he was, they were like, yeah, we're putting a wall out in center field, and I was like, really? I was like trying to process it in my mind, and we go out there, and I'm like, these guys are hitting it over that bad boy all the time. I mean, you had Johnson in his first career at home, right?
First career hit
was a home run.
He was actually hitless through his first 2 or 3 games, and he came up against Purdue Fort Wayne and smacked one right over that wall.
I mean, that's something really cool that, because I was sitting there, I called that game. I think I was on for the ESPN Plus broadcast, and I was like, this guy hasn't hit yet, and then he just sent it over the monster, and I was like, all right, well, that's welcome Austin Peay, welcome to Clarksville. So again, you got some young guys on the team as well, and obviously, what's it like being able? I mean, how's that mentorship role work for you?
It's really cool because I was in some people's exact shoes at their point where they're at right now. It's just cool to talk with them, ask them how the transition's been, ask them how they like their first year at Austin Peay, and just being able to talk with players when they're struggling or when they're doing good. Just being a mentor, just tell them to soak it up because you love every second of it, and kind of counting down. This is my last year, so it's kind of crazy to reflect on it.
Who was kind of that mentor role for you when you came in? Because you had a couple guys that obviously transferred in when you did, but were maybe a little bit more experienced in the game of baseball at that point. Were there guys that were already here, or were there guys that obviously you pulled from that came in with you?
I'd say a good mix of both. One main person is Harrison Brown, Jacob Weaver, Nate Barksdale. They were the vets that stayed. So it's cool to just get to interact with them and see how it was before, see what we're turning it into. There's other guys, Lyle Miller Green, Garrett Martin, those guys that came in at the same time, just kind of growing from each other and being surrounded by really good players.
What's been your overall best experience so far at Austin Peay?
I'll just say the people, relationships. It doesn't get any better. There's so many good people here. It just makes it enjoyable to be around every day.
I think the big thing, and to kind of reiterate what happened with last year, you guys win the ASUN in the regular season. One of my really good friends is Reed Harper, and I know it's Ryan Harper's younger brother. Reed and I went to high school together. We graduated together. I got to watch Reed have this awesome career at Austin Peay in baseball, and we're back almost to that, to that point where now it's like, you guys didn't want us to get hot. You didn't want us to be there. You guys have been able to kind of rebuild this organization, this program, to where it has been in the past. What do you credit to that, number one? Like, what is that kind of like? Where are you putting the credit for that type of rebuild that we saw so far? I mean, it's far from over, but how do you feel that way? How do you feel the rebuild's been? What's been the big part of it?
I would say the coaching staff, just the culture they brought in. It just makes everyone want to produce and want to be around the yard all day. And they credit a lot to those previous championships, conference championships, and getting to regionals. And that's kind of our vision, is to get back in the postseason and make a run there.
What was the feeling like last year, everything kind of coming up short? And I know, obviously, the thing is when we ever have like a really good run, there's always like you can go back to one controversial moment, always. And I feel like it happened to us at Oregon years ago. I just feel like there's always that thing. But like, now that you've had that experience, you guys have had that chance, you've had that target as the number one team and things like that. What kind of, I guess, is like the mentality coming into, if that's the case again this year, how do we change it from what happened last year?
Yeah, I think, it's the game of baseball, but I think for us, our mentality is if we can go in, work every day, you just empty the tank every day and get just a little better every day. So at the end of the season, you can have no regret. You might have disappointment, but you won't have regret about anything you did.
Preston, obviously I know that you this is first season for you. I know you do all your research, though, and you've looked back and everything, looked at this team from last year, not being able to watch last year's team, but kind of knowing a little bit about it. What have you seen that's like special about this team that you're like, this is what people should really know about our baseball team?
I mean, these guys are they are so much fun to watch. I wish everyone in the country could come out to Raymond C. and watch these guys play. But, I look back to last year's record, and I go back through the schedule all the time and kind of see how each series played out. And something that stood out to me is the amount of sweeps that we had last year. I think we only had like 2 on the entire season. So far this year, we have 5. And I think back to what, Roland said earlier in the season where, you look back at last year, you hate what happened, and you're coming into this year thinking you need to win that, championship or win the regular season title as fast as possible. You think of baseball as a marathon, not a sprint. But in my mind, I'm thinking, let's go ahead and clinch that title spot right now and win it as fast as possible. I mean, these guys have 5 sweeps, and they're taking off. They're 4 games ahead of the next best 3 teams. And that's something that, really speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's super cool to kind of be able to, mention that about a team and mention that they are, starting. I mean, it's just hot is the only way that you can say it, is that this team has started off very hot. They've done everything right. This past week in the first series that they've lost, but again, it was, the North Alabama is North Alabama. That's all I'll say. I mean, I'll leave it at that. I'll talk bad about it. They can hate me all they want at North Alabama. It's totally fine. I was here, and I'm sure they didn't enjoy me calling the softball series because I get a little homerish for our softball team when I'm on the air. I'm a homer for all of our teams, unfortunately, when I'm on the air. But I know for a fact that North Alabama, probably not the biggest Ethan Schmidt fan. That's totally fine, though. I don't plan on going to Florence anytime soon. But again, I think that's big, right? I think it's a big moment of, you have that title, you want to defend it. The whole reason why Austin Peay in the early 20-teens, or mid-20-teens, the reason why they were so good was because it had a similar feeling. You had the guys who were playing baseball to play baseball like they were kids again. You had those guys that were MLB prospects. We've seen it. We continue to see it. And things like that. So, I mean, that's something that had been away, I feel, for a little bit. I mean, you had a couple of guys here and there that you're like, okay, but it wasn't like you're looking down a lineup and you're like, well, this guy could get drafted, this guy could get drafted, this guy gets drafted. And we saw that last year. We continue to see it with this group, and we're seeing it with younger guys as well, that you're like, this guy continues this career. We're going to see him playing somewhere in the MLB at some point. So I think that's a really cool sentiment from Coach Fanning, is like, we have the team to win. Like, we can win it, really the first series. And so far, everything's looking really good in that matter. Because I know we talked about the preseason player thing as not being as, again, It's great. Thank you. Like, I get that. I get that sentiment from you. How big is it, though, to try to live up from last year's team, take that regular season title, and then try to do better, in your opinion, as a guy who is now on both of these teams?
Yeah, I think from last year we just take what we can learn from it and just build on it. And anything less than what we did last year is really unacceptable, and we're not going to settle for it.
Is there a pretty good group of guys who are saying that exact same thing with you? I mean, like you mentioned, you have a couple guys who were here and have been through this program, and they remember the not so great years. Do you are those guys kind of barking that as well, and reiterating that to these younger guys that are stepping in?
Yeah, I believe we got 39 guys saying the same thing, and the whole coaching staff. We're not gonna accept anything less than last year.
John, I don't want you to look too far ahead, but you are a guy who's definitely a lot of scouts are looking at you, things like that. I know that's got to be, is that something that's always been kind of a goal for you? Like thinking back to little John Bay out there with the wiffle ball and the bat and, hitting off the tee and whatnot and little things like that. Has that always been a kind of a dream of yours?
Yeah, it's always been a childhood dream to play at the next level. It's pretty cool to see it unfold here. And whatever happens, I'm good with after this year. But, yeah, it's cool to see.
I know that's got to be and I love the mentality because it's it should happen. It may happen, whatever. But the whole mindset has to be right now in this moment because everything you do is only going to continue to add to that. To see the guys last year, Lyle and John and those guys get drafted, and now to kind of see them continuing to go through the ranks of the minor leagues, are you trying to watch as their stuff all the time? Are you keeping up with those guys? Do you reach out to them about what's the experience like?
All the time. We're in constant communication. Clayton Gray got his first knock the other day. And there was so many guys. We're on the bus. Hey, Clayton got a hit. And Lyle hit a monster home run the other day. It's just cool to talk with them every day and just little texts. How's it going? How are you liking it? How are you feeling in the box? It's just cool to talk and hear their experiences from that level.
Preston, for you, obviously keeping up with the guys, some of these guys you never even met, but do you kind of share that same sentiment of oh man, this is an Austin Peay guy. We got to make sure we're letting people know that they're still out there kind of kicking butt.
Oh yeah. Roland actually keeps me in check. He told me the other day, hey, we need to do a better job of doing this. I'm like, okay. I'm doing a lot, but I got you. Yeah. But yeah, these guys, seeing them, right in front of me, play the game, and I get to ride the bus with these guys, and I get to build those personal relationships with them. It's cool to see the other side of the player and see the person, that's not really portrayed to the public. And so it's really cool, just watching these guys do what they love and try and live out their dreams.
That's awesome. John, for you, still got a little bit of time left here on the season, but one of the things that you have continued to mention has been the atmosphere at Raymond Sehan Park. What's it been like to play in front of the Clarksville community, and what have they meant to you through your past couple seasons?
It means everything. Just the support is unmatched here. Just for example, Lynn Rye feeding us after a game, or just seeing all the alum come back. Parker Phillips being one of them. Just getting to talk with him, approach, and some of the things he was thinking in the box. Just like that, stuff like that is unmatched, and you can just feel the support from everywhere in the community.
Yeah, like I said, I went. Austin Peay Baseball has always been, as much as I'm around all the other sports, and I'm not really around baseball a ton with doing softball and all the other things that I do. Baseball to me has always been one of those teams that you could hang your hat on here, and for a little bit it wasn't, and I was kind of sitting around and I'd be like, what's happening here? But now that you guys are kind of back into that, it's super cool to be all right, baseball's back to where it needs to be at, because that's been a staple of really Austin Peay sports has been baseball, I feel, my entire life growing up in Clarksville. So for somebody who maybe hasn't come out to watch you guys, what can they experience at Raymond Sehan if they come out on whatever day you guys are playing? But I know this weekend we're back home, correct?
Yep.
This weekend we're back home.
No, we have a midweek against Moorhead, and then we go to EKU, and then we're back home against North Al.
Okay, so we'll be back home against North Alabama. We'll actually have an ESPN Plus broadcast, so people can watch it. But we want them in the stands. What's your message to the Clarksville community, John, to come out and support the Governors?
If you come out, you'll just see what we want to represent, and that's Clarksville. We want to represent Clarksville by the way we play, by the way we take the field, and just playing hard, and you'll enjoy it. Don't want to miss it.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for joining me as well. Like I said, it's smooth and easy. This is not nothing crazy. I try to keep it, pretty smooth and pretty awesome. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today, Preston and John. You guys were absolutely tremendous. This was really, really cool to get a chance to talk to you guys, talk a little bit about Austin Peay Baseball. Please come out and support the Governors. Like I said, I know we have the ESPN Plus broadcast, all that good stuff, but nothing better than being in the ballpark watching these guys. They'll put a show on for you. If we try to invest in fireworks for home runs, we would lose our budget very quickly. These guys can absolutely tattoo a baseball. You may walk away with a souvenir if you can get around the field in time, whatever it is, but definitely come out and watch these guys because they are doing a fantastic job this season. It's a great coaching staff. It's a great team, great family atmosphere for certain. And these guys want to meet y'all. They want to meet the next generation of Governors as well. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Talking Schmidt. We hope that you enjoy it, and we hope that you join us again next time.